Hello and welcome to the final ever episode of 35 Vinute Movies, a Vin Diesel podcast. This was the podcast where we're going for Vin Diesel's entire filmography and reviewing, ranking and discussing them, just in general. I'm Cameron, and as always, I'm joined by Vin Diesel's number one fan, Awais. How are you today?
Good. That's a sentence we'll be saying for the last time, actually.
Yeah, I have to think of a new spiel to say at the beginning of every episode, so
I know.
disappointing.
We're not going to get a name as catchy as 35 Vinute Movies.
That's the. I think my brother and me were talking about different actors because I was saying, we're finishing 35 Vinute Movies. We don't have to do it next. And he wanted to do The Rock, and he wanted to call it Rock Talk. And I was like, well, that'd be.
That's it. That's it.
Perfect.
Perfect. Sorry.
I can't think of anything better really than I can't think of anyone having a better name than that. So it's disappointing. I saw, not to shout people out, but I was following some people on Twitter to just because I was going through like people that follow me and that, and I saw that someone has a Michelle Pfeiffer podcast called Pfeiffer Fridays, and I was like, that's not too bad of a name. So
spelled with a P, I hope, for Fridays.
I hope so. I can't remember, but
it has to be. Come on,
PF for the Fridays. So we were doing things a little bit differently this time. The final ever episode, we're gonna actually have a ranking. We're going to split this into two halves. We're going to have a best overall movie situation, and then a best Vin Diesel performance. We're going to go for a top 10. We're going to do 10 to 6 quite quick. Then we're going to talk about our 5 to 1 choices, a bit more in depth, and discuss with each other why we've chosen those ones, and then we'll go on. So we'll just do it like that. We'll split it in two. We're doing overall and then performances. So let's get this show on the road. Awais, do you want to tell us what your 10 to 6 are?
Yeah, so this is talking about films. Some interesting choices there. The 10 to 6 is a lot of Fast and Furious films. But number 10, I've got Boiler Room, which Vin had a small role in. It's like a sort of crime drama. I liked it more than Cameron, but I'm sort of into those crime films, so I thought that was really good. Number 9, F9, fitting. I just love that movie. I've seen it twice now. 8 is The Fast and the Furious, the original one, which is just obviously a classic, started that franchise. Number 7, Furious 7. I'm realizing these numbers are coinciding. And 6 is Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, which is just a fantastic MCU film.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I'll run through mine real quick. So number 10 for Vin Diesel movies overall, Pitch Black. We were quite snobby on it at the beginning, but the more we over the weeks, the more we talked about it and the other Riddick movies, the more we realised how good we had it at the first.
Yeah, 100%.
First time round. Great contained sort of thriller horror situation going on there. I really enjoy it. Number 9, Fast and Furious 9, just come out. It could rise exponentially over the coming years. We never know. It's a really good flick. Number 8, Strays, Vin Diesel's first ever movie. I mean, it caught us by surprise completely. We had no clue it would be that good. Number 7, both the Avengers movies. I mean, on my personal list, they are a lot higher than this, but I felt I kind of wanted to give more spotlight, but also I do think the ones about them are much better, and I just want some variety. Number 6, Fast 5. Probably the best Fast and Furious movie, and I mean, it'll be a toss-up for years to come against Fast 5 and F9 to see if anyone can crack that. Let's see if 10 and 10. Is it 10 part 1 and 10 part 2?
So I think so, yeah. 10 and 11, but then Vin recently was like part 1 and part 2. No, I mean, they're all great films. Pitch Black and Strays both just missed my top 10. And like you said, they're ones that, we were chatting before this, they're like they're good movies, but just you have so much more appreciation for them, like when you've sort of gone through the rest of Vin's filmography, and just, I think, especially with the Riddick franchise, when you've seen the other two, we were being sort of very snobby about that first Pitch Black film, I remember. But it's compared to the second one, and the second one is really good, but compared to like just where that franchise has gone, you know, it's it's like a needle in a haystack. It's just so fantastic.
Yeah,
And
for
Strays
sure.
no one talks about, which is obviously his directorial debut, right out the gate, which was great. Yeah.
That stayed at the top of the list for a long time. That was up there for a long time. It took a long time to knock that off.
Yeah.
So do you want to give us number 5 then? Tell us what
Yeah.
you're thinking for that.
So my number 5, you've talked about it already, is Fast Five. It is the best Fast and Furious film. I agree with you very much. I just absolutely adore it. I think it's everything you want from the Fast and Furious films. It's got the great melodramatic themes of family. It's got the fantastic action. It's got The Rock. It's at a point where it's starting to get silly, but it's still taking itself seriously enough to sort of bring it back around and make it all work. And that finale is just fantastic.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't have it. I think I've even got it up top. No, I don't. For some reason, it just slipped out of the top 5. The more I thought about stuff, and I don't know. I felt like I had a pile up of Fast movies. There's like 9 Fast and Furious movies that, well, 8,
Yeah.
he said, that you can pick from, and you're sort of like, you're just so much choice. You know what I mean? And it's
There's
one of those
just
ones
so
where
much
you
choice, yeah.
some things can't make the cut, and I really am confident in my top 5. I think.
What is your number 5?
Well, number 5, I think this might be a surprise to some, but it really got me when I watched it, and I was really, really pleased with it. I really like the Chronicles of Riddick, which is the second in the Riddick franchise. I mean, you don't get space fantasy like that. You know, I mean, just don't get it anymore. The attention to detail in that world, the attention to detail in the characters, and just the overall lore of that movie. It was way deeper than it had any right to be, especially in a sequel to Pitch Black. You know, you go from this really small, contained story in Pitch Black, where it's all like some people crash landed on a desert planet and got to try and get out. Then you've got Riddick. Then you've got Chronicles of Riddick, the next one, where it's like, hey, there's like 600 planets. This race of species have been fighting for years. Shit's been going down for all the time. Riddick's in like the middle of that, and you're just like, this is just the most unexpected turn, but it also feels like the best turn it could have made, I guess. You know, it's a really big fan of that, and the visuals are spectacular.
I think it's sort of weird to think it's a sequel to Pitch Black. And I don't know what went wrong with the third Riddick, because that sort of loses the epicness and the sort of scale and the world of the sequel. I know fans didn't love the second one, and so like they sort of tried to find the middle ground. But do you hope that if we have a fourth Riddick, it'll go back to that? Because I do. I think that's when it's at its best. Yeah.
I think they'll readjust the balance again, because obviously I do want to see more Pitch Black shine through, and Riddick felt more of a sequel to Pitch Black than it's a sequel to Chronicles of Riddick. So I would love to see a good mix of both, but I do have a really massive soft spot for Riddick, for Chronicles of Riddick, and I think that's the best that franchise is probably ever going to get now.
Because the fourth one's supposed to be Furia,
which makes
supposedly.
Yeah, it makes it sound a lot more like it might be a bit more epic, a lot more backstory than what we're used to. Maybe we'll get another Riddick game as well. I'd love to have that.
Yeah, I know you're a fan of those.
So what's your pick for number 4?
So my number 4, you've already talked about it. It's the Avengers films. So we decided that we would lump them up as sort of, one, because it's essentially one big story. You can have your sort of preference for which of Infinity War and Endgame you like, but really, I don't know anyone that watches them individually. I don't know anyone that says, oh, you know what, I'm going to watch Endgame today, or oh, I'll watch Infinity War today. Usually, if they want to watch Endgame, they'll watch Infinity War first. If they want to watch Infinity War, they'll watch Endgame anyway. I personally have never seen anyone talk about them individually. And they're just, we talked about it in our sort of episode, they're just historic movies in terms of what they mean for cinema and stuff, and especially with all the Disney Plus shows, I'm sort of constantly baffled by the way Marvel are doing the whole world building thing and the way they're sort of doing this whole cinematic universe. Obviously Vin's a small part of both, but we're talking about just the film in general, and I think, they're just great movies, really.
I keeping it sort of Marvel as well. I mean, I have number 4. My number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Number 1, and I mean, you talk about Vin not being a big part, but Guardians of the Galaxy films I think really do group justice. I think he is a
100%.
major part, And I do feel that Groot just had to fall to the wayside in those movies because he just, you know, I mean, there was not a lot for him to do, I guess.
But there's also so many characters as well.
Yeah, that's the only like big shame. But yeah, as overall films, you can't beat Infinity War and Endgame, I guess. They would be much higher on my list, but I did want to have, like I said, some diversity in the top 5, I guess. So I just kind of wanted to shuffle things about. But I say that number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy for me, and that is one of the. I don't know if I just want to tell you my number 3 as well, because that is it's just a double bill of both
Go
of them
for
together.
it, yeah. Let's hear it.
It's just 4 and 3
I think I know which one it is, yeah.
1 and 2, and you just. I think they are, after watching this, I think they really are some of the best content the MCU's put out. I think it's some of the best films and the best
100%.
The best story. I mean, they're self-contained as well. Like, you can watch those two. I know some people who have only seen those 2 movies and they don't need to see anything else. They're fine. They're sorted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Vin is great in them. Visuals are spectacular. The story is actually probably some of the just the themes and story in those movies just
some of the
spectacular.
best.
Like I said, action set pieces. I really can't get enough of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I guess I have a massive soft spot for Marvel as it is. So it's a no-brainer. There would be at least 1 or 2 if in the top 5 if there was going to be ever.
Interesting that you've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 above 1, because that's not often a take you see. Most people put Guardians 1 above the second. I mean, I think both are fantastic. And Guardians was my number 6. But we talked about this in our episode. Guardians 2 is one of those films that people just forget about.
Yeah, it seems to be, and I would argue that it has the best. I think it's the best. It's more refined but more epic at the same time. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where it's a kind of a perfect sequel that tops the original because it just does everything the original does, but turns up to 11. And
100%.
Also manages to not lose itself in the process. I think that's one of the best. That's one of the best compliments I can give it, is the fact that it is just a true sequel that does not lose itself at all. It's that good of a movie. I have just sort of ruined the flow of this because I have just gone 4 and 3.
That's okay.
You've done your 4, have you not? I've just completely forgotten.
Yeah.
So go and tell me your.
So my number 3 is Saving Private Ryan, a film that before this podcast I hadn't seen. And a film that I loved when I watched it, but one thing I'd said, and I remember saying in that episode, was because I watched it so late, and it was a film that so many people hold in such high regard and talk about all the time, I feel like it could never have lived up to those expectations. It did a really good job, and it was fantastic, but at the same time, just like everything else that we've seen over the past however many months, it's grown on me. You know, it's one of those films, like, I get it, you know. I get why people hold Saving Private Ryan in such high regard. I get its significance on the war genre. And Vin Diesel is one of the best parts of it. We're going to talk about that, I think, a little bit later as well in terms of his performances. But the whole film is just so grounded and gritty and, you know, really trained that sort of genre of war film. And I think it's just brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Do you want to also just throw out your number 2? Because I think we have the same number 2 anyway.
Same number 2, right? So going to go for a bit of a classic here, The Iron Giant, which again hadn't seen it before the podcast. But come on, how can you not love that movie? It's just one of the best sort of animated films I've seen in a really long time. Like, it balances the heart, the humor, the action. Vin is again terrific as the Iron Giant. A very interesting role for him because it was so early in his career, and his early career was so different in terms of every project he did.
Yeah, for sure. It's the thing about the Iron Giant is I think people don't talk about it enough. I think it really did get lost when it came out. There's a lot of people of a certain age that seem to just hold it in such a high regard. You speak to someone who was a child around the time that was on DVD or video, they were like, "This is the best film ever," and no one's talking about it.
Doesn't Jordy love it?
Jordy adores the Iron Giant. He really does, and he was trying to get me to watch it for years. And watching it for the second time for this podcast, I did finally cave in 2020, around the beginning of the pandemic. I watched the Iron Giant for the first time, and I loved it. And then going back for this, I watched The Iron Giant again, and it really cemented itself as one of my favourite animated movies. I mean, it's Brad Bird. You know what I mean? That's a class animation director. You know, you've got The Incredibles, Ratatouille, stuff like that. He's the man. You know what I mean?
And you can see where it started. I mean, this is, you know, it's, like, there's no wonder, because it all started with this, and you know, it shows. He's got that sort of knack for that world building and that storytelling.
Yeah, and you talk about you just know, really. It's just really, I don't know. I don't have the words. I guess I don't have the vocabulary anymore of just trying to describe how good The Iron Giant is as an animated movie, and how high of a regard we should hold The Iron Giant. And I think when I'm older, I'll definitely be showing my kids The Iron Giant for sure.
100%. I think it's one of those films that's just going to get better the more you watch it as well. And that was your number 2 pick, wasn't it? Yeah.
Number 2. Do you want to know my number 1, or do you want to?
Yes.
Do you want to go first?
No, you can. Let's go for it.
Well, I kind of kept quiet during your Saving Private Ryan thing, because I have Saving Private Ryan as my number 1 movie. I was
understandably.
I was thinking, well, it took a lot of thought, because I had a lot in this top 5. I mean, I just didn't know what I wanted to kind of do. But I felt Saving Private Ryan is probably my favorite. Not proper movie, I guess. That's a really weird way to say it, but it's my favorite. It's just my favorite film in his filmography. I think when you look at everything he does, I think there's just the class of this movie is a different kind of class. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's one of the best war movies of all time, for sure. Yeah. It's one of Spielberg's best movies, I think, hands down. The D-Day sequence does not amazing. Come close to it. One of the best. I would pay good money to see this in a cinema. I'm gutted I've never been to see this in a cinema. So yeah, I just one of the most visceral and just not over the top, but just the most breathtaking movies, I guess, you will ever watch in your entire life. Star-studded cast, all doing great work. Tom Hanks, excellent. Yeah. Vin Diesel, excellent, and we will obviously be talking about that later on. But oh my, what a guy, and just what a movie. Yeah, number 1 hands down, easily number 1. What about you?
It's a fantastic movie. So my number 1, you've already talked about it. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I mean, I was saying to you, it's interesting that you have Guardians 2 above Guardians 1, because you don't see it, but I also have it above the first one. I mean, you know, I don't know what to say about it that you haven't said already. Like, everything about that first film, it takes and then elevates it. It's funnier. It's way more emotional. The character stuff is better. Like, just every choice in that is just absolutely brilliant. One of the sort of best antagonists in a villain in a Marvel movie as well, with Ego the Living Planet. I think it's one of the best Marvel movies. And I'm very excited to see what James Gunn does with the third one, now that he's finally back for it.
And it's just so much fun. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't take itself too seriously, but always doesn't stray too far from being serious. Do you know what I mean? It's a great balance. Yeah.
It gives you everything you want. Like, what everyone loved about that first one, it sort of takes that and does more. I think that's probably why people forget about it, because, you know, I've seen people call it messy, and I get it's juggling a lot of tones, and it's, you know, where Guardians was sort of dipping its toe into humor and emotion and sort of getting all of those right. This is like really going for it. You know, this is like really going for the belly laughs. It's going for the tears. And so it's sort of juggling this wealth of emotions, but I think it does it brilliantly. What we're going to talk about next, which is Vin Diesel's performances, which is, again, you sort of said it there nicely, and, you know, we sort of made a meme about it in terms of how we were ranking our films before, but people think of Vin Diesel as just Dominic Toretto, or as just this tough guy and this tough, and I think nowadays, you know, something can be said about his choices and sort of all reflecting that, but he has had some, you know, we've seen 27 of his films. He has had some very interesting performances in his career.
I've just run down my top 10 to 6 because, I mean, again, it's really, I think you'll see a lot of the same films we've talked about, I guess. But, I mean, my number 10, The Pacifier, and I think it's also your number 10 as well. I mean, it's
has to be. I mean,
it's such a different role for him. I get that he's playing a sort of same kind of family man by the end of it sort of situation, but he's an army man, super soldier sort of situation. But comedy, you don't see him do a lot of comedy. And I mean,
No, you
I
don't.
guess he tried his hand again in Triple X3. I get with like this weird charismatic freaking. Well, I can't remember the name of the guy in Triple X anymore. But yeah, no, you just don't see a lot of Vin Diesel comedies, and I think The Pacifier, it's just a great bit of diversity in his thing. Number 9, Furious 7, emotional as hell, and you can tell he really put his heart and soul into that movie, and it really shows. It just from start to finish, it get a bit teary eyed at the end.
100%.
Pitch Black, number 8, I think, kind of shows Vin's sort of. I don't even know how to describe it, but I just think another diverse one that we don't. Just another diverse movie there, and it's just. I just want to. I'm making 10 to 6 more of a showcase, I guess. Showcase piece of the best of Vin Diesel before we go in depth into his best performances. Number 5, number 7, Fast 9. I think that blew me away. Just in terms of just. You know what I mean? There was a lot going on between Dom and his brother, and the flashback sequences. I guess I know they weren't him, but they really helped elevate his performance in the present day. If that makes sense. One of those ones where Vin Diesel and F9, great stuff. Number 6, Find Me Guilty. Just wanted to get that in there, at least on my list.
You have to, it's a good one.
Carries that film on his back. Brilliant. Do you know what I mean? He carries that TV movie on his back and does a great job. So let me know yours. What are you doing with your 10 to 6?
So very similar to you. Number 10 is The Pacifier. I just needed an excuse to talk about it because it is one of the better, action star goes into daycare comedy. He does comedy really well. We were talking about this before. We want to see him do more comedy because he's got the great comedic timing here. And that's why I love this performance so much. Number 9, F9. Now, this did beat out Furious 7, just because I was thinking in terms of which one do I think he does more in. Yep. And I have to say, I think he showcases more in F9 than he does in Furious 7. 8, The Iron Giant. A voice performance, but I was thinking in terms of like Iron Giant and Groot. Groot's a great performance, but I feel like Vin showcases more with the Iron Giant, and I think he's perfectly cast there, and I can't imagine that film with any other actor. Number 7, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. He's not in it loads, but I think he's one of the best parts of the film. It's a bit of a different. It's a role that plays into his strengths, but also feels a little bit different from some of his other roles. And number 6 is Triple X, which is obviously the first one. I don't know what happened to Xander Cage in the third one, but he's just got a cool persona to him in that first one, and I think he really does a lot with that character and makes that film so iconic.
For sure. I think that's number 12, 11 on my list, but I can respect that. He's really good. For iconic
just
role.
An iconic character,
yeah. For sure. I'm just looking to my number 5. You mentioned it, I know, and he's not in it a lot, but Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, I think he really is a standout for me.
Yeah.
Watching it again in the context of this podcast, where I was really looking for Vin again. I mean, it's one of those ones where I've seen Billy Lynn a couple times before, but I wasn't really paying attention to Vin Diesel. If that makes sense. It was more of just a case of
just watching the film.
Just watching the film. But watching him, he really does do a lot. I think he is.
100%.
It's a Saving Private Ryan-esque role again for him, and he just plays a soldier really well. He's just one of those ones who plays a soldier really well.
He does.
But as the sort of emotional backbone of that movie, and the reasons, the sort of reasons for Billy Lynn being Billy Lynn, I guess, is he's very good in that situation. What about your number 4? What's your number 4? Number 4. Your number 5. Sorry.
My number 5. I mean, firstly, I agree with all of that. I think he is. I think maybe that's a sort of good thing you said there. Is because of this podcast, you really focused in on that. I feel like because of this podcast, we were sort of looking at Vin very specifically in all of these films, and I feel like it really does go to show that he can make a bad film watchable. Because even sort of the worst films, it was the same. And I think I didn't love Billy Lynn, but I feel like Vin did so much with that character. And that's the same to be said with my number 5, which is Pitch Black. Which again, I really enjoyed Pitch Black. I think it's a very different film, and I have a lot of respect for it now, having seen the sort of sequels and seen some of the other films that in Vin's career. It's just such a fascinating character. And I think Vin does so well with that sort of role. Like, he's, we talk about sort of the the tough guy with a heart of gold that we see Vin play off him. Riddick's not really like that. I mean, he is to an extent, but not in Pitch Black, I don't think. You see tiny shreds of humanity in it, but what I love about this character is that he is just doesn't care. He's bad. I think, what was it, like Vince B. Riddick or something his name is? Or Vance? He's just got a strange name. He's just got a strange name as well in this. I think...
Riddick.
Yeah. His full name, isn't it? Like Vance...
Full name. I'm going to have to Google it because...
it's a strange one.
Richard B. Riddick. That's what his name is.
Richard B. Riddick, yeah. He doesn't look like a Richard.
No.
That's the one thing I'll say is a bit unbelievable about the character.
He doesn't look like a Riddick. That's the only thing I don't believe in that movie at all, actually. It's just the fact that he's a Richard.
Exactly. But I think Vin just really, brings something else to that character. And I love watching him in that movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree. Number 8 for me, obviously. Number 4 for me, Strays. Again, caught us by surprise.
Low down.
Low down. I know. But yeah, no, Strays really caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting a lot, especially from an indie, self-financed movie that Vin Diesel made. Opened a lot of doors for him as well. Like we mentioned in the podcast, he was cast out of after Spielberg saw this one and a short film, I believe, for he had the role of Private Capazio written especially for him in Saving Private Ryan. And he really does just showcase how good an actor he can be when he not when he puts his mind to, I guess he does put his mind to every role, but it's one of those ones where when he really is given a great script, not a great script, but like just a great sort of puts his mind and effort in, I guess. I don't know how to word that without being mean, I guess. It's just,
I get you, for sure. They talk about putting your sort of best foot forward first, and I think he does that here.
Yeah, for sure.
My number 4 is a little bit different from yours, sort of on the complete opposite end, in fact. It's Fast 5.
Right.
We talk about that being the best Fast and Furious film. I think it's his best Fast and Furious performance as well. Same reasons I like 9, in that he gets a real chance to showcase Dominic Toretto and a different side of Dominic Toretto, but I feel like this film does it the best. And I think you've got the family dynamic nailed here, and I think that this film is just elevated by Vin's sincerity here. And just he does the action well, he does the heart well, and I think it's just genuinely a very strong performance. And say what you want about the Fast and Furious films, they aren't very serious, but I feel like Vin is always a good part of all of them.
And the longest fight scene ever.
Yeah, true. Yeah, with The Rock. Oh my god.
That's the longest fight scene. Just flying through walls for the entire thing. 3 we're on, isn't it? Yeah, number 3. The Iron Giant. You mentioned it previously in number 8. I think it deserves a lot more credit than that. I think he does so much in that role while only saying so little. Do you know what I mean? It's
true.
And you can see why they got him for Groot. I mean, there is a lot. You can say so much and saying nothing at all. Like you said, you've said basically what I was going to say, but I just feel it all a bit stronger, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
Where you couldn't cast anyone else in that role at all. He is the Iron 100%. Giant. He is that character. He makes it. It could be such a different film if someone else was doing it, and I'm glad Vin is in it because he does bring his A game to that movie. And underrated voice actor. I think we need more voice acting roles for Vin Diesel.
Yeah, I mean, I think Groot and the Iron Giant show he's got a real knack for it. I think so. We need to. I feel like he is an Iron Giant, quite literally. I feel like he's probably, if you were to slice Vin's arm, you'd be iron. He is literally the Iron Giant.
He's just, he is Iron Giant.
No, that's a very, very, all very true. I agree with all of it. My number 3 is Saving Private Ryan, because you can't talk about Vin Diesel in his best performances and not talk about Saving Private Ryan. He's only in it for like the first third of the movie, but he's the best part of it. And look, this is a film where you've got Matt Damon and Tom Hanks and so many other great actors, and Vin Diesel in his second ever film is the best part of it. And so much so that his legacy looms large over the other 2 hours. Like, it's, you know, and I just think that is a testament to how good he is. The fact that Spielberg wrote this role specifically for him after seeing Strays, I think that tells you everything you need to know. He's just really good at playing soldiers. He's got that sort of, that very cliched soldier persona to him. And I think that's what makes him so fantastic in this. And he really, in that hour, gets to do so much in terms of emotion and showing so much of his character, I think. And it's just a great role, really.
Yeah. Moving on to my number 2. I mean, similar to the Iron Giant, Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, probably the reason. Yeah. I mean, I want to stick that higher. I think he does so much in that role, again, with so little.
Yeah.
And he is just Groot, I think. And that.
Yeah.
You just, I don't know, he really does.
It's just Guardians 1, yeah.
Guardians 1, yeah. I mean, we are Groot at the end. I don't think he's as strong in Guardians 2.
Yeah.
Because he is just baby Groot. He's got a lot of voice modification going on. There's basically no voice mod, I believe, with
I don't think so, yeah.
Groot. But baby Groot, he has obviously had to have his voice tweaked a little bit, and there's a lot more emotion in Groot 1, I think, and I think there's a lot more. I mean, We Are Groot scene.
The We Are Groot scene is iconic.
You can't not cry.
Yeah, I know.
it's too lovely, and I think it is probably one of the strongest performances overall.
Yes, four words in that movie.
Yeah,
really,
4 words.
Like 4 words. That's it. He does so much with it.
Yeah, they did it in every language. The film went out in. It's solid as hell. He's so good in that movie, and number 2 for sure for me, easy.
That's fair enough. I don't have it on my list, but I mean it is just a fantastic performance. I think, again, I would love to see a proper Vin Diesel animated film, like where he gets another one like the Iron Giant. Give him like a Moana, you know, Disney, come through, just give him like a Moana, you know.
Let him sing.
He likes singing. Let him sing. Give him the Moana sequel, but just recast Maui.
Yeah, and I think The Rock would love Disney for that. I believe that would probably make him very happy to see Vin Diesel while people replace him.
My number 2, you've talked about it already, is Find Me Guilty. Now, I have this so much higher because it's just so weird. It's so weird to think that Vin Diesel is in a Sidney Lumet film as this quirky comedic lawyer wearing a giant
convict.
Suit.
He's not. He's
right, a convict that becomes his own lawyer. Yeah,
he's his own lawyer.
Wearing a suit that's too big for him, with a head full of hair, which is the reason we started this podcast.
Yeah.
It's such a different project for him, though. It's a courtroom drama, and it's not the most interesting courtroom drama. I think if you want to watch a Sidney Lumet film, watch 12 Angry Men. But it's just the weirdest. It's so. I want to say it's so unexpected in his filmography, but it's not. Because he's done so many different films, and in his early career, he was doing these kinds of films. I want to see more of it. I mean, he is the reason that film works. He is what makes it watchable. It's a terrific performance. It's the kind of performance that makes me want to see him do more. Not that it's a serious or a dramatic role, but it makes me want to see him step out of his comfort zone a little bit and sort of do these more artistic indie dramas again, because, you know, we talked about sort of Saving Private Ryan and Strays and things like that. Those are some of his best films, and they're so different, and that's why I love his performance in Find Me Guilty. The film's not the best, but I think he himself is great in it. He does so much with what little he's given. For sure.
No, I that film really is crap overall.
Yeah, a TV movie is what you said, which was very fitting, actually.
The production design and cinematography of a TV movie, but with the performance of an actor in his A game, it's a wee shame. I mean, I don't know what happened on the set of that film. It just
No idea.
looked like it was put together with cardboard boxes, but there you go. Yeah, no, I agree. Like it's a different film, but good to see it there. Yeah, my number one. You've mentioned it already. We're doing a lot of this. Saving Private Ryan. You've basically stole the words out of my mouth. I got them on top of both my lists, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it really did stick with you. I mean, you said his legacy sort of in the movie looms large. He is probably one of the biggest reasons that you sort of question this mission overall, I guess, because of the loss of life that has happened to save one man, who, in the grand scheme of things, did he really matter? But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's the Vin sequence, I guess, in general. Like from beginning when you first see him to his death scene, is just, I think he just steals the show whenever he's on screen. He's really, really great. Yeah, when he goes up to save that little girl, and it's
so heartbreaking.
Sniped down. It's heartbreaking. It's yeah, no, it stuck with you, and it sticks with you. It stuck with me, and that's why it's number one. It just really did. It sticks with you for the entire thing, and I think this really launched his career, and I think he's got a lot to thank Steven Spielberg for. I'd assume he'd say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, number one, easy number one, for all the reasons I discussed in my initial talking of it in overall films 100%. As well. But we've added Vin Diesel is just incredible in this. So
yeah, I remember messaging you being like, Vin's dead, like an hour in, but then, and I was so angry about it because he is that fantastic. So yeah, I'm sort of gonna go. You say this is obviously the thing that made him a star, and I agree with that. But sort of my number one is the film that started it all, which is Strays. This was the first ever film that first ever feature film he starred in. He also wrote it, produced it, directed it, and I think he really did just start strong. And we've talked about how it's one of those films we've come to appreciate so much now over the last 3 months, 4 or 5 months. But he's terrific in it. This is the film that started the tough guy with a heart of gold thing. And you can see why he now picks these characters. Because it's I think that's Vin Diesel in a nutshell, and he was writing Strays from his own experience, and Strays is sort of early Dominic Toretto. It's early any version of his character, I think, really. Also great sort of director as well. Definitely a first time director, and you can feel that it does feel like a first effort, but I would love to see him direct more, and I think he. Really, there's a reason that Spielberg saw Strays and decided to cast him because of that, and I think it's because he does so much with that character and with that script, and really makes you believe the good guy shtick. And I have so much appreciation for this character and for this performance. I think he started out with his best performance, and I don't know if it'll be beaten.
That's great. I can't. We're ending on full circle. You've made it full circle. Congratulations.
We will. Our first ever episode was Strays and Saving Private Ryan, and that was both our number ones.
Yeah.
Strays and Saving Private Ryan. So
we really could have just stopped there.
To be fair, we didn't need the rest of the show. Yeah.
That's it. It's done. Any thoughts to end us with?
Not really. I mean, it's been fun. It's been fun to sort of, because it did start out as a meme, but it's been, it's really sort of given me an insight into Vin, and it's made me really, truly appreciate him as an actor in a way I didn't before, and really recognize his talents. And I'm now excited to see his future, and sort of, especially post Fast and Furious, and seeing what he'll do, whether he'll go back to those smaller films, and maybe he'll even direct again, because and just hoping that maybe we'll get opportunities for him to really flex his acting again. What about yourself?
I would hope a Vin Diesel renaissance is on the way, in a way that we have a fast ends, he has a wee break, and then he comes back and knocks out the park with some dramas. He knocks out the park with some
gets an Oscar maybe.
Yeah, To be honest, I wouldn't put it past him.
I wouldn't put it past him. He's got the talent, clearly.
Exactly. That what does it. I can't believe that's the end.
I know, we've made it.
But we did promise we would tell you who we were doing next. And I can confirm to you now that the next person we will be doing is Emma Stone, because it's
Yeah.
you know, we had to take a little detour, I think, because we've done so much action movies. I wanted to really take, and she's had such a varied career as well. You see Emma Stone's. We're looking at different filmographies and thinking, oh, do we want to do this person? Do we want to do this person? But Emma Stone really has a very varied filmography that is very interesting.
And a really good filmography. Quickly, before we sort of wrap up, what film are you most excited to talk about in Emma Stone's career? Is there any, just one that immediately jumps out?
The obvious one's La La Land, but I mean, I'd love to see, I know of, but I'd love to see if there's something I've not seen before that jumps out and really surprises me as a movie. I you know what I mean? It's one of those ones where it could be another Vin Diesel, and that's what I'm most excited about, is the fact that there's so many of these films you've not seen before, and there's so many that could just jump out and really, really, really good, and you'd had no idea.
100%. Yeah.
What about you? What are you looking at?
I mean, La La Land's my favourite film of all time, so I'm obviously looking forward to talking about that. But like, I'm really excited to visit some of the early ones that I haven't seen before, just because I know Emma Stone has always brought it from the very beginning, considering her first film is Superbad. So I think there will definitely be some surprises in there.
Yeah. So please, for sure, get subscribed now. On whatever service you're listening on the YouTube, on the Spotify, on the iTunes. Please subscribe, because that will be coming next month. I think we're aiming for. We're going to start recording them very soon, but we will be releasing them around the end of August. I think that's what we were looking at.
Yeah.
The end of August time. Or you can to get more updates. You can follow me on Twitter at CamzoOG and Instagram as well. I do another podcast called did that again. That's the second time I've done that. I do have another podcast called Awais and the Giant, where me and Jordy Steele talk about nerdy topics and review the latest movies. It's a fun time, and I think you should go and listen. The link's in the description. I also have a website called ohighfilms.com, where you can find everything else I do over there. Awais, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Awais, almost forgot my own name there, and www.thefilmbite.com. And yeah, as Cameron says, we're aiming to launch in August, but we'll have a specific date probably closer to the time.
So yeah, we'll see you then. Sometime in August. Emma Stone. Let's get hyped.
35 minute movies.